Welcome to Manhwa Vault. The scene begins in a demon castle, where a man's laughter echoes, expressing disbelief that a mere human dared to venture so far inside the castle. So he admired the human's skill. He then unleashes a powerful killing intent, and we learn that the man he is talking to is the Archduke of Steel. This is the Demon King, ranking number 7, named Parsa. The warrior smiles and tells the Demon King to shut up and that his era is ending today. We learn the man name. It's named Han Jae-woo. He charges forward, executing the Empire's Sword 12th form, called Slayer. As he lunges with an overhead attack, he yells for the Demon King to take this, but a status window suddenly appears in front of his face, announcing connection to the server has been lost, catching him off guard. Arza laughs at Ju's flaws, and Ju, embarrassed, realizes he has failed the Warburg's Parsa raid, a challenge the warrior Ju couldn't clear. We then hear voices from Ju's apartment, asking if he's still playing the game. Someone tells another to shake him gently, but we see an arm wrap around a cord and unplug it. The person who unplugged it says, oh, as Ju glares and asks if he was the one who unplugged the Ethernet cable. The apologetic person is told by Ju that he was basically done with the raid, and others tell him to stop. Ju explains that while he might seem like a gaming addict, he used to be very popular. He was known as Ham's problem solver and their big brain money goblin. He had a good life, but then realized how little it all meant. His attention is drawn to a VR capsule, and he reflects that his past obsessions were a waste of his time. The game he plays is Super AI Aquilia's VR masterpiece called Guardian of Humanity, which has changed him. It's a single-player RPG with a vast open world, a magical experience for someone who hadn't even read a picture book. The game's beautiful characters and their stories captivated him, and it transformed him from someone who only cared about money. He even borrowed money to buy a game capsule worth $1 billion, acknowledging he might seem crazy. The person he's with questions how he can treat him this way when he invested in Ju's gaming. Ju laughs, saying he understands, but he has covered them more than just a few times. He recounts instances. One friend was caught golfing behind his wife's back, another was working 2 jobs secretly, and one was singing for YouTubers for 10 years. He's had his boys' backs. Bulk asks if Ju, who borrowed $1 billion for a game, is really want to talk. Ju glares, and the friend immediately backs down, apologizing. They then ask how he plans to repay the debt by writing a walkthrough guide for others. As Ju struggles within the game, figuring things out, we see him typing. His bank book reveals numerous negative withdrawals, indicating he's nearly out of money. His friend suggests he work with them again, reminding him he's Handum's problem solver, but Ju refuses. He hasn't seen the game's true ending, which nobody has been able to reach. Reaching this true ending is the least he can do to repay the world for what it's taught him. He tells his friends that the workday is over and they should go home. They question him about the interest he owes and affirm their continued belief in him. As he closes the door, he turns back to his capsule and immediately boots up the game. Upon logging into the game world, specifically the Bed Cathedral, a message states he is suspended from actions for 22 hours due to his death. He remembers being disconnected, but wonders how he's supposed to earn money. A woman's voice comments that he looks like he's struggling. When he turns, she materializes directly behind him. He asks who she is, and she introduces herself as Aquilia, the game master of Guardians of Humanity. He laughs, asking if she's serious, and she advises him not to judge a book by its cover. He jokingly calls her his type, and then asks if she thought he believed her just because she appeared out of nowhere claiming to be Aquilia. She snaps her fingers, pausing the entire world around them. He identifies this as a time-stopping spell, an SSS rank skill. She clarifies it's not a skill, but rather she just shut down the server for a little bit, asking if he believes her now. She mentions a new event for the 7th anniversary, asking if he's curious. She instructs him to be the first to clear a new world that will open at 12 p.m. as a new character. He protests that he hasn't even cleared the game with his current character and questions if she's out of her mind. She then offers a reward of $25 billion, teasing him by asking if he's scared, which instantly motivates him. She adds that she thought he wanted to see the true ending, implying it might exist, and that this event holds a clue to reaching it. He looks genuinely surprised and reaches for something in her hand, but she tells him to wait. As she puts it back in her inventory, she says he might get a free gift if he tries. She sends him 30 million won, and he exclaims, "This is crazy." She explains this is because he's her VIP, being number one in score and higher than the next three combined. He asks if she's joking, saying it won't matter if he doesn't clear the game, but that the money will cover his this month's interest payment. He tells her he'd be an idiot to say no and will try the event. She says she knew he would accept, as expected of the top player, and will send him in right away. Aquilia begins speaking an enchantment table language, her eyes unfocusing, and a halo appears above her head. Her whispers continue as feathers fly, and angel wings emerge from her back. A rift in time opens above her, and she says, "Installation." All NPCs in the world fade out. Ju finds himself on a moon, overlooking a planet. She tells him the door behind him leads to the new world. He asks if it's the Anywhere door, a reference to Doryman, and if the game starts when he walks through it. She confirms, and he smiles, reaching for and opening the door. He then reminds her not to forget the reward money, as it's time for him to get the true ending. She nearly forgets to tell him that if his character dies in this event, he will die in real life, too. He's already 1 foot in, falling through the sky, landing in a random forest, and angrily asks why she forgot to tell him this. He wonders why it hurts since he's in a game, and if she was serious about him dying. Shaking and pissed, he declares he'll do it just to show her up. It's time for the former Archduke of Steel to start the game. Sometime later, Ju is struggling to walk, parched, vowing not to forgive Aquilia. His status window shows he's dehydrated, on the brink of death with only 3 health points remaining. He can't believe his max health is only 20 and he has 3 mana. He curses his straight cheeks character, having walked only half a day to become dehydrated, questioning how he'll reach the true ending with such a character. He then hears dripping water, instantly focuses, finds a river, and cries out thank God for Bear Grylls, and is glad the game is so realistic. As he drinks, his health increases, and I don't know why he's wiggling his ass. In the distance, he spots a woman in the river. He drools at her naked back. Losing 1 health point due to excitement, he wonders if it's who he thinks, and as she turns, his eyes light up, expecting to be blessed. Instead, a message says he needs to pay for the DLC. He questions why a VIP has to pay for DLC, thinking this was the complete edition. A group of women call out, demanding payment to see what's next as they surround him. Surprised, he asks how much. We then see him thrown into a room with another man. The woman who was bathing tells him to stay still, calling him a lewd brat, as he looks up with 1 health point left. She says if he stays quiet, she'll consider leaving his pants on. The other man asks if he's okay, and Ju asks how much he has to pay for the DLC. They laugh and walk away. The man asks what he's talking about, and Ju dismisses it. The man introduces himself as Rudd, a monster hunter. Ju introduces himself as Valor Steed Valor, unsure where the name came from, and asks how Rudd ended up there. Rudd explains he was unlucky, coming near the witch's forest while chasing prey. Ju agrees it's bad luck. Rudd then asks Ju his story. Ju says it's similar to Rudd's, not wanting to admit he was peeping. Rudd says he's unsure what Ju went through, but it's unfortunate since he looks so young. Ju assures him it's fine, as this kind of situation is his specialty. Rudd asks if he has a way out, and Ju confidently states he does because he wrote the guide on how to defeat these witches. It took him 3 days to plan how to deal with the 5 witches of Havel. They're named Gunda, Kalura, Aldaida, Fugal, and lastly the one he was peeping on crazy style, Hijuju, and are known by this title because they appear in the Havel Forest. Despite being early game bosses, thousands have died to them, making them infamous. However, they are unorganized, with Fugle and Hiju arguing. Ju then calls out to Fugle, saying he's glad she's alive, which provokes her, as indicated by a status window. He claims to clearly remember Hiju saying she'd kill Fugle. Hiju tells him to be quiet, and Fugle, looking back, asks who's going to kill whom. Ju's provocation worked because Fugle hates Aju. Ju also claims he heard Hiju say she'd kill Fugle and take all her assets. Rudd asks if he's serious, and even Fugle starts believing it, asking if Hiju actually said this. Hijuju sighs, asking why Fugle believes this, then says it's not like Fugle will use all her money, so she should give her some. A status window indicates Hiju is very greedy about taking assets from Fugle. Alita, oblivious, says that must be why Hiju was making an acid bomb. Gunda, whose main issue is a big appetite, asks where the food is. Finally, Caldera, who loves fighting, asks if she can join in as they all start screaming and yelling at each other. Ju transforms, making Rudd regret being locked in with him, but it's all part of Ju's plan. Although their title suggests teamwork, they have no teamwork whatsoever. People fight them without knowing this, which is why so many have died. It's easy to make them fight each other. As they pull each other's hair, Ju tells Rudd they should take this chance and dip. Rudd comments that Ju is something else. As Ju goes to leave, he grabs onto a rug, saying he has another idea. He pulls it from under them, causing the witches to stumble backward and fall into one of the pots. They scream, and Ju tells Rudd it's time to leave. Ju laughs, calling the witches stupid, and noting they sure do give a lot of experience despite being dumb. Something Fugle's snake flies towards him and wraps around his leg, ensnaring him and limiting his movement. She calls him cunning and refuses to die alone. Ju tries to kick the snake, missing multiple times, telling it to get the hell off of him. He forgot his character is hella weak. Rudd offers to help. He unsheathes his blade and slices, cutting off the snake's head. He asks Ju if he's okay, and Ju thanks him, then asks to borrow his bow. Rudd asks if he's good with it. Ju takes it, noting it's 15 attack and 30 range. Ju says only a little bit, as he aims directly above the pot towards a giant potion. The arrow shatters it, and they all look up. Hijuju cries, "That's no good," and starts shaking. Fugle asks what it is. Hiju screams that it's the acid bomb, and Fugle also begins screaming. It descends, getting closer to the pot's liquid. Upon contact, a giant explosion occurs, and a rock lance hits Ju on the head, taking 1 health point. Rudd asks if it's all over, and Ju tells him to stop giving flags, but he receives an achievement. These witches ain't shit. Multiple status messages appear, stating he has defeated the witches of Havel Forest, gaining 320,000 experience points and 5,000 achievement points. Ju confirms they are definitely dead, and Rudd agrees it's good. He got really lucky at a low level and has one more thing left. Rudd says he thought he was done for, but Ju saved him. Though thinking it might be too much, he offers red dragon fruits as a gift of gratitude. Ju is surprised, not remembering them in his previous playthrough. Rudd says he took them from the witch's nest since they looked valuable. Ju thanks him, swipes them, and begins chugging them. In the status window, jokingly calls him a dragonborn. He now has 220 health, and his other stats, including 100 strength and 120 dexterity, are skyrocketing. He says a normal player like him would never dream of having something like this, and he got very lucky. Rudd smiles, looking at him, and calls out. As Ju is still chewing, Rudd asks if he's interested in monster hunting, extending his hand. Ju is confused, as a relationship route with a monster hunter appears. Ju finishes his food and tells Rudd he has things to do instead. Rudd says he must be a busy young man. Jaewoo realizes this is a good opportunity. He doesn't have a class, so his experience points have nowhere to go and will disappear in a month if unused. Rudd starts to leave, but Jaewoo says he only has 3 months and asks if that's enough. Rudd laughs, asking if he doesn't mean 3 years. They head deeper into the forest, and Rudd gives him his first goal. Go deep into the forest, hide wherever he wants, and Rudd will come after him in 30 minutes. Jae-woo immediately aims for the monster tracking skill from the hunter skill tree, making quick progress. He has explored this forest countless times, knowing the location of everything, even down to some of the little twigs. The dense trees that disorient others mean nothing to him. He recalls poisonous spores from toxic mushrooms and ferocious beasts, even more dangerous than the witches. Most of this is imprinted into his mind, and with the red dragon fruit, his physical abilities are nearly maxed out, so he won't be found easily. At least, that's what he thought, as he looks up anxiously and Rudd says peek-boo. Jae-woo is confused, and Rudd says that was 50 points, but due to Jae-woo's passionate effort, he'll give him 10 bonus points. Jae-woo asks how he did it, and Rudd notes his face is full of curiosity. It's been a while since he had such a fun student, and they should give it their best shot. Jae-woo has completed the quest, the Hunter's Hazing, which is updated to the Hunter's Trial since he acquired the Monster Hunter class. It also grants him the skills Herbalism, Intermediate Swordship, Survivalism, Musket Shooting, and Tracking. He laughs with an evil face, saying he can't wait to work well with him. 3 months pass in a time skip, and Rudd remarks on Jae-woo's impressive mastery of everything. Jae-woo challenges him to hide if he doesn't believe him. Rudd pats his shoulder, admiring his spirit, and says he'll try hiding, but if Jae-woo doesn't find him within an hour. Jae-woo is making dinner. Jae-woo agrees, looking forward to it, and smiles after Rudd leaves, revealing he's actually just a villain. Rudd begins climbing, glad to have met such a great apprentice, even if late in life. He tells himself not to make it too hard for Ju, and that if he hides by the cliff, Jae-woo won't find him in an hour. But as he climbs, Jae-woo pops in a frame, grabs his leg, and Rudd turns with a shocked expression as Jae-woo says peek-boo. Rudd exclaims and thinks it's a fluke, so he tries again and again. Rudd can't believe Jae-woo mastered skills he spent 5 years learning in 3 months. This time, he heads deep into a cave, saying there's no way Jae-woo will find him. He looks nervous as he goes deeper, noting it's a hellhound's nest. Jae-woo laughs, stating, tip number 1 from the Guardian of Humanity is that even earthquakes won't wake a sleeping hellhound. He asks if he passes, and Rudd concedes, congratulating him on mastering the skills super well. Jae-woo attributes it to Rudd's teachings, but Rudd insists it's Jae-woo's talent. The true reason is Jae-woo maxed out all skills using the witch's experience from their first meeting. Rudd finds this really incredible, noting Jae-woo remembered all his monster ecology tips, but doesn't recall teaching him about hellhounds. Jae-woo reveals he's the actual author of Monster Ecology. Rudd laughs loudly, saying he's never met anyone like him before, and Jae-woo will definitely go far. He's curious what Jae-woo will do next, specifically if it's the task he mentioned earlier. Jae-woo says, first things first is he's going to make tons of money as everything starts with cash. Rudd suggests a close friend who works as a mercenary. Jae-woo considers this an intriguing proposal, as mercenary work is good for early income, free, flexible, and he might even meet the game's guardians. Ju agreed to Rudd's proposal, and Rudd gives him his old mercenary badge, which his friend will recognize. He wishes him luck, calling him Valor, and Jae-woo thanks him. Jae-woo reflects that with this, he defeated witches, gained a class, and has a perfect start. At this rate, a true ending might not be too far out of reach. He looks at his hand, recalling Aquilia's words about the true ending's existence and a clue to it. He tries to log out, but it's crossed out. He says he never knows when he'll die, but it's exhilarating, and he'll make full use of this tension. He slaps his face, telling Aquilia to wait as he'll reach the true ending. He has completed Hunter's Trial and now has a new quest: join the Mercenary Guild. On the moon, Aquilia watches all of this on a small TV. Delighted she kept an eye on him. Someone appears behind her, asking if that's him and saying he's definitely not an ordinary guy. Aquilia blushes slightly, asking the other woman if she's into him, revealing the other deity is named Valfura. Valfura, a god, questions why she should look at a human she's meant to protect in that way. Aquilia responds, why not since he's cute? Valfura doesn't laugh, and Aquilia notes her seriousness, recalling she used to be more fun. Valfura asks if she really paid off all his debt, and Aquilia says it was settled ages ago. Valfura considers it low-key that he doesn't know his debts are paid and is still working for it. Aquilia finds this the fun of it, to which Valfura calls her awful, and Aquilia thanks her. Valfura then asks if he's part of her plan or just her plaything. Aquilia thinks for a minute, adjusts her seating, and says he's more like a promising talent, with a slightly Yandere look in her eyes. She just wants to keep watching him. Back to Jae-woo. He sighs, saying his legs hurt and collapses, exhausted, wondering why the forest is so large. With his current stats, he could exit in half a day. But it's time to move, as the mercenary corps awaits in the town before him. A bell rings, and women in maid outfits welcome him to Francois, the best tavern in Frankfurt. They ask how they can help, and he says he's looking for someone. A waitress offers to show him to a seat. He remarks that the tavern is the classic spot for intel gathering, with drinks, lively people, and the smell of good food. If any place could give him information on mercenaries, it would be here, as people talk more when in a good mood. Plus, the waitresses are mad cute. Jae-woo then asks if anyone knows someone named Raby Schultz. The good mood vanishes, replaced by deathly quiet, and everyone freezes. A waitress tells him that name is forbidden around here. Jae-woo asks why, and another freaks out, saying he's too dangerous. Her boyfriend got involved with him once and returned a mummy on the brink of death. Jae-woo freaks out, and two old men discuss their adventures, making Jae-woo wonder who Rudd introduced him to. The waitress warns him to run, as rabies will be there any minute. Jae-woo asks why she's so scared, then feels his face brush against someone. He glares, asking who it was, and it's Raby Schultz. Schultz spots Rudd's badge on Jae-woo's waist. Realizing Jae-woo must be the guy, he laughs, saying it's perfect, and he's looking for a new battle slave rather companion. Jae-woo asks what he said, curses Rudd, and vows to kill him next time they meet, calling Schultz a freak. Jae-woo realizes he's a slave to be dragged into the war between the Prince-Elector and the forces of Pamede. Schultz confirms he catches on quickly, and Jae-woo thinks that even though it feels like he's getting conscripted to some country's army, it's a great opportunity. Also, the Prince-Elector is a guardian of this game, and through him, Jae-woo might get information on other guardians. A horn blares, and Schultz says, "Speak of the devil. Here he comes." But the game warns Jae-woo that this is an ambush, taking 30 health points. They watch the Prince-Elector ride by. Schultz says Jae-woo would fit right in with that group, but Jae-woo says this is different from what he expected. He's used to being on the opposite side of these things, but this time the Prince-Elector looks kind of like a villain. Jae-woo is completely caught off guard by something, exclaiming he can't believe she's here. We see a woman with long blonde hair, riding on horseback. He didn't expect Dame Vol Pargus to be here. The Prince-Elector glances at her, asking if something is wrong since she seems distracted. She says no and tilts her head down. He warns her the battlefield awaits. Jae-woo explains she was his companion in his previous playthrough, but he couldn't save her in any of them because she always died to the same hell of a creature, a barrier he couldn't overcome. Schultz asks if something is wrong, but Jae-woo says no. He's determined to reach an ending where she lives, even if it means risking his life. They head to the mercenary group, who are training with real swords. Jae-woo finds it pretty intense, jokingly asking if this is the Marines. Schultz laughs, saying it's already starting, and they'll be selecting group leaders through sparring matches with money on the line. Jae-woo acknowledges that pride and cash sure is one hell of a combination, but his goal is to make contact with the Prince-Elector, so he should stay quiet for now. Schultz asks if this means Jae-woo is participating, grabbing his shoulder, confirming Jae-woo is participating too, and asserting Rudd wouldn't send someone clueless. Jae-woo asks why his opinion doesn't matter. Schultz then asks everyone else in the training grounds if they want to go for a run with the newbie. Everyone gets excited at fresh meat, eager to go first. Jae-woo wonders if he's not even allowed to object, but decides he better show some power before meeting the Prince-Elector. Everyone gathers around, and a man named Max stands before Jae-woo, introducing himself. Max questions Jae-woo's twig-like body. Jae-woo retorts that his body gets thousands of likes on Instagram. Schultz asks if both sides are ready, and, if so, to begin. Max screams and charges, his sword flying through the air, surprising everyone as Max is defeated in a single hit, earning Jae-woo 15 fame. They question what happened, but Jae-woo says it's to be expected. After eating the dragon fruits, his strength is on par with an ogre. The others demand to know what's going on and want to fight too. Jae-woo is overwhelmed, telling them one at a time. He uses his intermediate swordsmanship to defeat one, gaining 15 fame, then ties one up and headbutts another. A bald guy, Charlotte, built like a bodybuilder, says this is getting ridiculous, and they're all embarrassing themselves against a rookie. Jae-woo questions Charlotte's size, asking if he's even human. He thinks this is too much and needs to quickly combat log, but remembers he can't log out. He says he needs to rest, but Charlotte refuses, leaping directly at him. Jae-woo laments fate, but decides to settle it properly. Grabbing Charlotte's arm and clothing, he hits him with a monster slam, essentially a judo throw, slamming him onto the concrete. Charlotte gets knocked out instantly, and Jae-woo gains 30 fame, remarking Charlotte was way too heavy. They can't believe Charlotte lost, and Schultz blushes. They gather around Jae-woo, calling him a monster for beating Charlotte, and saying that despite his scrawny appearance, he has a crazy body, and they still want to fight. Schultz tells everyone to move aside, laughing menacingly. Jae-woo assumes Schultz is being nice because he's his friend's apprentice, but Schultz declares Jae-woo is chosen and will be the new group leader for this battle. Jae-woo has an existential crisis as everyone cheers him on. He wonders what he's gotten roped into. He has completed Join the Mercenary quest, and the new one is to retake Harheim Hill. The scene shifts to a war about to begin. Schultz yells, "Charge!" as a group of men run towards monsters. Jae-woo is there, cutting off a monster's head. He explains they are aligned with the Prince-Elector's forces in a standoff against the Demon King's orc army. Their simple mission is to steal the enemy commander's military flag. The plan is to break through the enemy's tight formation, squeeze through gaps, and collapse their lines. However, these proud orcs are strong and have the best coordination on the continent. As a group leader, Jae-woo's job is to stop them. As two orcs attack, he bobs and weaves. He questions why this is his job as a group leader, calling it ridiculous. As he cuts through them, he admits he was only planning to snag some military merit and then run away. At the orc camp, one informs the captain their spearmen are falling apart. The captain dismisses it as ridiculous, saying his elite spearmen wouldn't fall. He takes a spyglass to peep this shit himself. He's confused by what he sees, observing Charlotte and the others running forward. He sweats nervously, ordering them to form ranks and line up the musket riflers. They fire, but the bullets bounce off the shields. Jae-woo calls it pathetic, asking if they don't know what K2 is. Without rapid fire, muskets require rotating firing ranks, which is their chance. Jae-woo charges into the orcs, telling the men to follow quickly and rip them apart. An orc can't believe they're being blasted away by the one that looks like a shrimp, acknowledging these bastards are definitely not human, but vows not to let them take the flag, which carries their tribe's proud history. As the others charge in, he declares he'll never fold, only to immediately do so. They wave the flag, cheering. Jae-woo says he just needs to hold out a little longer, and the military merit is his since he stole the flag. He gained 30 leadership and 20 achievement points. A horn blares, and Max tells him it's bad news because their allies are retreating and orc reinforcements are directly in front of them. Jae-woo curses, lamenting that victory was just within reach, wondering why they are leaving. Max asks what to do, suggesting they toss the flag and leave. Jae-woo asks what he's saying, and Max points out they are completely surrounded. We see Jae-woo, Charlotte, and another man surrounded by the enemy army. An orc with a large sword, the hidden boss, the orc grand general named Kallian, tells them it's over. He calls them brave human warriors, telling them to give up and retreat, as these are his proud elite soldiers. If they return now and leave the flag, he will honor their bravery and spare their lives. Jae-woo says there's no way he'd believe that. If they come a step closer, their flag is going straight into Charlotte's underwear drawer. Kallian glares menacingly. Kallian says there's no way they'd put it in such a filthy place. Jae-woo asks if they think there are rules in war, declaring that if it means winning, he'll rub their flag all over Charlotte's ass. The orcs panic, realizing what they must do, and point their muskets all around them. Charlotte drops his drawers, but they continue pointing their muskets. Kallian tells them to fire, and as they make a break for it, shooting their own flag, Charlotte pulls up his pants. Jae-woo's intimidation failed. In previous playthroughs, they never let go of their flag so easily. Realizing this is bad, he sees many of his men catching stray shots. He notes they brought out the Grand General, which is cheating, and he can't take that monster with his current fame and rank. He panics, wondering what to do. Recalling past adventures with former party members, Aquilia's words echo. If he dies in the game, he dies in real life. This makes him wonder if it's just another world since she's a god. His heart sinks, and Max tells him to give orders or they'll be wiped out. Jae-woo admits he forgot and starts shaking wildly before erupting in full-blown laughter. They tell him he's lost it. Jae-woo grabs the trumpet, and Charlotte says reinforcements aren't coming. Jae-woo tells him to watch. He takes a deep breath and blows the trumpet forcefully. Max says that's the wrong direction from their allies, and Jae-woo says he knows. They just need to block the bullets. He tells Aquilia they're even, and if she has any sense, she won't abandon him, as he's still a VIP. An orc tells them to charge, and one leaps towards Jae-woo to kill him. As the spear nears his face, something flies by, piercing the orc's throat. Someone on horseback, Dame Volpurgis, soars through the air. She lands beside Jae-woo and the others like a valkyrie, telling them not to give up and to raise their swords. Kallian yells for his troops not to interfere, declaring this a noble duel between him and the Countess Volpurgis. She calls him a true man. She thrusts at his head, which he dodges, and they clash blades, sending sparks flying. Jae-woo is amazed they're evenly matched. Even in the early stages of the story, Volpurgis is already this strong. She blows his sword backward with a powerful shockwave. Something catches him off guard. She sweeps through the air, kicking him straight in the face, sending blood flying. He regains his posture and laughs, saying, as expected, she's incredible. Her swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat are unbelievable, and she must be with the sisterhood of Valeria, which makes sense. She states she serves God with a devout heart. He laughs, asking if that's so, and she says it's getting late. She dashes forward, and they clash swords again. Kallian smiles, grits his teeth, and slams his sword into the ground, shattering it. But overhead is Volpurgis, coming in from the top rope, swinging her sword down, hitting him straight in the back of the head. He falls to his knees, says it was a good match, and collapses. The orcs retreat, carrying their captain away. Jae-woo stares in amazement, unable to believe she took him out in a single strike, but acknowledges it's expected of her. As the orcs run away, leaving them, she asks if he's the mercenary leader, saying she could feel his courage from afar. She introduces herself, and he shakes her hand, introducing himself as well, saying it's nice to meet her. She says likewise and shows respect towards him. He tells her if she hadn't come, they would all be dead. He reflects he's no longer the Archduke and should have been more cautious. She asks why he's hanging his head low and points as the men run over, calling out to their leader. Max tells him to look as they still have the flag. Jaewoo's heart races, recalling how they nearly died together. He starts shaking and screams that this is how it should be, and this is exhilarating. Back at the tavern, a little girl opens the door, screaming for Charlotte, looking anxious. Charlotte is pigging out. She asks if he went to another war and if he's hurt. He assures her he's fine and calls her back. Jaewoo asks if that's his daughter. Schultz asks what he's talking about, stating Charlotte is only 15 and the girl is his younger sister, Baptiste. Jaewoo disbelieves this. She starts begging Jaewoo to pay for Charlotte's medical bills, but Jaewoo is struck with confusion. Charlotte says it's thanks to Jaewoo they return alive, and everyone else agrees they were saved because of him. Jaewoo tells them to just eat the damn food, but because he's embarrassed, they notice him blushing and call him cute. Then Valpurgis opens the door, calling out to him, and he's still blushing. He smiles at her, and she's panting for some reason. She takes him to the Harheim forward base, saying the Elector himself has summoned him, intending to reward him with military honors, which is the highest honor a mercenary can receive. He remarks she's different from the Valpurgis he knows, more cheerful. He tells her she seems happier than he is. She tells him to call her by her name, and he agrees. She tells him to look at the soldiers whose lives were saved by his efforts. Without his bravery, they would have died. They are citizens of the Empire and alive thanks to him. She asks what other reason she needs to be happy, and he says he understands now. He remembers a moment in the game when she stood up for him, saying she hasn't changed at all. Only their relationship has, or rather, it's because he's just a mercenary. She tells the Elector she has brought him. The Elector commends her work, addresses Jew as Valor, and introduces himself as Philip. Jaewoo feels honored to meet him, recognizing the overwhelming pressure of facing a true guardian. Philip calls him the Reaper of the Field and praises his impressive and lion-like courage. Jaewoo considers it flattery, but Philip dismisses it, stating a man of merit deserves recognition. He awards Jaewoo's comrades 100 florins and Jaewoo 300 florins, noting 100 florins is a spearman's annual salary. Jaewoo vows to repay his generosity. Philip asks if he has anything else to say. Jaewoo says he has a request and asks if he can state it. Philip grants permission, and Jaewoo requests to regroup with his comrades and rest at Weitenberer. Philip notes it's far from the war front, but grants the request, allowing him to use a wagon from supplies. Jaewoo thanks him, and Philip asks if there's anything else. Jaewoo says he would normally step back at this point. He and Valpurgi smile at each other. He then says he has something he's curious about. Philip tells him to ask, releasing some killing intent. Jaewoo sweats nervously and asks for Philip's thoughts on the war. Everyone in the room murmurs, and even Valpurgis looks anxious. Jaewoo notes it threw everybody off, but he can't be helped as he's just a lowly mercenary. Philip asks for Jaewoo's thoughts instead. Jaewoo says with his limited perspective, he doesn't see the full picture, but something worries him. One man laughs, asking what he has to be worried about, and if he thinks he's qualified to give the Elector advice just for earning 1 military merit. Others say he must have picked up some shitty information. But Valpurgis calls out to Philip, citing the saying, even when crossing a stone bridge, one ought to tap it first, suggesting he hear Jaewoo out. Philip's pet, his uncle, questions how a lowly countess dares speak to the Elector, but Philip tells his uncle that she's the niece of the Elector of Bayern and deserves respect. Jaewoo internally acknowledges that even Philip can't ignore her. The uncle puts aside his anger, and Philip tells Jaewoo to continue, wanting to know how he sees the war. Jaewoo takes a deep breath, stating an ambush is coming, which immediately tenses the room. Philip asks if he has a basis for this assumption, and Jaewoo confirms he does. He explains that Demon King Pazamit's main strategies always involve ambushes and betrayals, citing the War of the Kingdom of Toa 10 years ago and the battle with Margrave and Halt 6 years ago, where Pazamit's ambush tactics were decisive. He adds a mustn't overlook Pazamit's other strategy, betrayals, making the uncle anxious. Philip asks if there's an imposter in the room, and Jae-woo says it's merely a possibility. Philip smiles, saying it never hurts to be cautious, but that it's all it is. He then releases killing intent, calling Jae-woo quite bold, stating Jae-woo's head is still attached because he allows it, and asking if he understands his place. Valpurgis starts to speak, but Jae-woo quickly affirms he understands and lowers his head. Valpurgis realizes Philip is in the wrong, but says nothing. Jae-woo apologizes for overstepping and leaves the room. He suspects something is amiss because in his previous attempts, the Elector Steel would have been more prudent. But this time, Philip seems very arrogant, indicating something is different. First, the red dragon fruits appeared earlier than usual, and Valpurgis also appeared sooner. Everything is different from his past runs. He ponders what this could mean. She then calls out to him, and when he turns confused, she's panting and blushing slightly, saying she finally caught up to him. He asks what she needs, and she says he sure does move fast. He asks if she ran all the way because she was worried, and she confirms. Jae-woo internally freaks out, calling her adorable. She wants to apologize on Philip's behalf for his actions and words, offering to make whatever he desires happen. He starts shaking, considering asking for something outrageous. He calls himself a pervert. She tells him not to underestimate her, as she comes from one of the Empire's wealthiest noble families. He thinks money is good, meaning she has a lot of nice clothes. He then thinks and smiles, requesting a quill and a pistol. She asks if that's really all he wants for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He says he's fine with it. His dream is to be a cavalryman, and he plans to use the opportunity to learn horseback riding. The pistol is his dream. As he holds back manly tears, she asks why he's crying, and he says she would never understand. She says she's never seen someone so unselfish before, not realizing how much he's given up. She says this isn't the place for that kind of talk and grabs his hand, offering to show him. He can't believe there's this side to her and starts blushing, completely folded. Sometime later, he's back at the battlefield between Philip and Pazamit. Philip declares today is the day he will finally kill him. Pazamit, annoyed, asks if someone can kill Philip already, complaining his breath stinks. An assistant appears, stating war preparations are complete, and Pazamit praises him. The man asks if he truly plans to use Hexax. Pazamit, annoyed, asks why he's bringing it up again. The man warns that Hexax is way too cruel, and if they capture Philip, he'll be a valuable hostage. But if handed to that perverted lunatic, there's no telling what will happen. Pazamit says he'll handle it himself, as his ring buzzes. He answers it, and Hexax says she's ready to go. He tells her good work and to stay sharp. He looks anxious, telling her to go easy this time, as Hexax asks what he's talking about. She asks when she's ever gone too far, and he replies always. She laughs and twirls, claiming she always takes it really easy and has never once taken it too far. They realize she's an absolute freak, and there's no reasoning with her. The scene shifts to Jae-woo riding through the forest, marveling at the incredible speed of his horse, Philly, and surprised there was a spare riding horse. It's a fitting gift from Valpurgis, who also gave him an expensive potion worth 1,000 florins, the price of a whole building, which can completely heal any wound. An explosion behind him signals the start of the battle, and he realizes he needs to hurry, as even Philip can't handle this war. Philip will likely charge and like a fool off guard. We see an injured Philip with his uncle, who is best friends with Pazamit. As they glare down at him, Philip asks his uncle why he would betray them, still calling himself a knight of the Empire. His uncle tells him he doesn't understand and should listen carefully. What Philip has done is conspire to rebel against the Emperor, and his uncle, realizing this, decided to cooperate with Pazamit and arrest him for treason, as he is the Elector. He raises his thumb to his 8 chins, asking if Philip understands the gravity of his situation, making a gesture that he's going to kill him. Philip says, "Nobody would believe such a ridiculous lie." Pozamit pushes Philip's head under his foot, telling him to accept the reality that he's nothing but a delusional lunatic. He tells his men to tie Philip up and snaps his fingers. As they run over with ropes, Philip tells them to stay away, asserting he's a noble elector, and begins crying. Pozamit tells his men to shut him up, as he's nosy. As Valpurgis flies in, she kicks Pozamit in the face, but he manages to stand his ground. She tells the other knights to seize the chance and escort Philip out. The uncle tells Pozamit that Philip is escaping, and Pozamit tells him to shut up because his voice is giving him a headache. On his ring, he tells Hexax they're on their way. She asks if it's already time, and he asks if she's not ready. She says she is. She was just playing around. He tells her to get serious, and she agrees, telling her boys it's mealtime, as they must be starving. It's time for them to go and chew up their new toy. They're chasing Jaewoo on horseback. As he uses his pistol to shoot them, he realizes she's using zombie dogs. She wears down opponents' strength with them and then slowly devours them. As one leaps towards his back, he elbows the little chihuahua and shoots it, hitting it with a 2-piece combo, saying he knows her style. He notes there won't be many more here, meaning the rest are near Philip. He doesn't care about Philip, but Valpurgis matters to him. He rides forward, saying he needs to hurry. We see Philip riding away with Valpurgis behind him, surrounded by the dogs trying to cut off their exit. Philip laments his mana control is off due to Pazamit's filthy trick. Valpurgis yells it's dangerous. As he looks over, a dog leaps towards him, and he shits himself. He cowers in fear while Valpurgis cuts the dog's head off and kicks its head away. She asks if he's okay, and he says yes. She warns him to be cautious as the area is unexplored territory where humans don't often come. He then hears screams and turns, seeing one of his soldiers being eaten alive by the dogs. As they scream, reality sets in for Philip. Valpurgis tells him to wait a little longer, but he yells her name, saying they can just leave the soldier behind instead. As they ride away, she begins to get devoured. Philip states he's different from her, and his life, and even hers, carry vastly different importance. She wonders if this is truly a noble and grits her teeth, regretting not listening to Jaewoo earlier, realizing it's all their fault for ignoring him. Hexax tells them they are so amusing as she wraps a thread around Valpurgis' throat and pulls it. Valpurgis stretches her hand out to Philip, who is leaving her. He looks surprised, but takes a single glance back before leaving. As she is dragged away, Valpurgis falls off her horse and says they are damned with someone like him as an elector. She begins shaking, and Hexax extends her whip, saying she's wrong, and you need to be at least that strong to be an elector. For some reason, she calls her sister, revealing a plot twist. Valpurgis shouted furiously, demanding that Hexax take back what she said. Her voice rang with authority as she declared, "The title of Prince Elector is no trivial matter. It's a critical position, one that holds the power to choose the Emperor of the Empire. Each Prince Elector governs their territory almost like a sovereign. This isn't something to be taken lightly." But Hexax, unfazed, ordered to her soldiers, commanding them to continue tracking Philip. They responded in perfect unison. With a sly glint in her eye, Hexax sneered, "You're Prince Elector blood too, aren't you, sis?" Her sharp glare cut through the air, provoking Valpurgis. Enraged, Valpurgis lunged forward, calling her little brat. A manic gleam flickered in Hexax's eyes as she welcomed the attack, taunting her sister with twisted delight before landing a brutal kick. Her laughter rang out, dark and cruel. She said that the scream is delightful and could torment her all day, cracking her whip across Valpurgis once more. Weakened and on the brink of collapse, Valpurgis whispered softly, "Sir Valor, if it's you, I know you'll find a way to survive this." A tear slipped down her cheek. But for me, this is the end. Hexax cackled, shouting, "It's not over yet." But before she could revel in her cruelty, a gunshot shattered the moment. She turned and saw, to her confusion, the corpse of a dog. Before the thought could register, Jaewoo struck her with a devastating punch, sending her flying. Behind her visor, Valpurgis wept silently. As she caught sight of Valor, a soft smile touched her lips. "Jaewoo really is a hero," she murmured, then collapsed. Jaewoo caught her gently, laying her beside a tree with care. Meanwhile, Hexax's mind pieced it together, how Jaewoo had taken out the zombie dog and circled behind her without a sound, and realized he's no ordinary fighter. Ju commented that Hexax is still the same creep. Hexax grinned and asked how he know her, calling him bro. Jaewoo, clearly irritated, snapped, as Hexax call him bro, as it's disgusting with that face of her. Hexax smirked at the gun in his hand, saying longer range than mine for sure, but my whip's way faster than any reload. Jaewoo fired. Hexax dodged, her whip lashing out and wrapping around his neck. "Come here, Jaewoo," she growled, yanking him toward her. Jaewoo's eyes widened just before she headbutted him. Blood trickled down his face, sending him crashing into the trees. "This isn't over," Hexax hissed, cracking her whip as she launched another flurry of strikes. But Jaewoo dodged every blow, steadily closing the distance. Hexax gasped in disbelief. Even among her entire unit, her whip skills were top tier. Yet Jaewoo avoided them all. He raised his gun, aiming at her. "You think I'll let you fire?" She snapped, spinning around, only to find him already behind her, dagger drawn. "How's that?" He smirked. "Daggers got a little zingy?" His grin widened. "I'm a burst DPS at heart." Hexax shrieked as blood sprayed from her face. She focused too much on the gun and lost an eye. Her demonic wings flared open as she screamed, "I need time to recover." She retreated quickly. "Sorry. Gotta bounce, busy man and all." Jaewoo called after her, mocking. "Scared now?" But Hexax didn't take the bait, panting heavily. "Taunts won't work. I don't do close-range combat." Jaewoo raised his weapon. "Today, I'm long-range DPS," he said flatly. Hexax laughed. "Bullets in the air? Please," but her eyes widened. Her sense of distance warped. Jaewoo fired. The shot hit dead on. Hexax screamed as she plummeted from the sky. Jaewoo strode over to her broken body, muttering, "Damn pervert's been a real pain." With a wicked grin, he licked his dagger. "All right, let's see what kind of loot you drop." Trembling, Hexax faked tears and with a cute look, asked if he's going to kill her, and requests not to, but Jaewoo raised his middle finger and tell her to quit bullshit and die like a dog. A system notification flashed. "You have defeated Hexax, the Whip of Destruction, an executive of the Demon King's faction." He also got a drops, Hexax's cloak, whip, antidote, and others items, including 2,000 florins. He then wiping his mouth and says he got everything. Ed also noted that he didn't sell off the healing potion earlier. He pulled out a perfect healing potion and walked toward Valpurgis. Looking down at her, he whispered, "I'll definitely save you." Jaewoo glared back at potion, which shows the potion effect. It will completely heals all wounds and illnesses and restore physical condition, but there's a caution saying it to apply directly to the affected area. Jaewoo blinked, then squinted, then blinked again. Directly? A beat of silence followed. His gaze drifted to the armored figure in front of him. Slowly, realization dawned. He tried to reason with himself, tried to stay logical, and say it's just a medical procedure, and there's no way he's thinking anything indecent. But his thoughts betrayed him the moment they looped back to that single cursed word. Directly. Seen sit to real world, where everyone might have forgotten, but Han Jaewoo hadn't. That was still his real name. He had been a boy who lost everything. His father had died young from illness. His mother collapsed from overwork not long after. By 18, he was completely alone. The world didn't wait for grief. At 22, he worked as a fixer in Hanamdong, handling jobs most people wouldn't touch. On the surface, he was just another freelancer scraping by. In truth, he was surviving in the gaps between desperation and resolve. Arguments with clients were routine. Then someone handed him an envelope with shaky hands, muttering thanks through a wide smile. While counting bills, he says, "It's a temporary solution, and if you've got cash like this, maybe pay your debts before thanking me." The man laughed, with an obnoxious grin, saying he got a quest this week. Jae-woo's eyes narrowed. The faint twitch in his brow said everything. The man added quickly, sensing judgment, not to look at him like that, as this week's quest should earn him around 10 million won. Jae-woo blinked and asked in disbelief how a man could get 10 million just from playing once. He responded saying, "It's an important quest, that's why." Jae-woo crossed his arms, skepticism written all over his face. "Seriously, what kind of game is this?" The man's eyes lit up like he'd been waiting for that question all day. "You've never heard of Guardian of Humanity?" Jae-woo raised a brow, calling him a nerd. The man nearly exploded as he can't believe Jae-woo never heard of Guardian of Humanity. Guardian of Humanity wasn't just a game, it was a world. A massive open-world RPG. Plus, the character designs, especially the female NPCs, are globally acclaimed. It had over 1 billion users. And the top players? They weren't just good, they were rich. Some earned tens of millions a month. Jae-woo stared, unconvinced. "You're saying you actually earn that much from a game?" The man didn't even hesitate, saying, "Of course." The man leaned in, grinning like a salesman who'd just spotted a potential buyer. "Want to get a try?" Jae-woo shrugged him off without missing a beat. "Nah, I'm busy today." But even as he said it, a small part of him hesitated, just for a second. Then he received a cancel request message, and now he is free from work. And so, Jae-woo played. The first time he logged in, everything felt hyper-real. The sky looked exactly like the one outside his old bedroom window. The cobblestone streets, the chatter of market stalls, even the pores on NPCs' faces, everything was stunningly real. He could not believe if he was really inside the game. He thinks that it's pretty immersive and is awestruck by the face and expression of NPCs. He can even see the pores, just like the real thing. It was convincing. Then, a sudden shout shattered the moment. "Let go!" A fruit vendor snapped, wrestling an apple out of a boy's grip. The vendor shot him a glare. "If you've got no money, move it, I've got paying customers to serve." He didn't even know what a florin was, but 10 of them jingled in his virtual pouch. He tried to save them, but then he saw a little boy, eyes fixed on a vendor's apple cart. Jae-woo's gaze drifted to the boy, still reaching longingly toward the fruit cart, and the woman beside him, young, weary, and beautiful. She placed a gentle hand on her son's shoulder. "Let's go," she said softly, guiding him away. Jae-woo stepped forward before he could second-guess himself, and called to the vendor, "1 apple, please." "How much is it?" The vendor glanced over, then smiled. "Oh, just 1 florin." Jae-woo gave the apple gently in the boy's small hands, lighting up like someone had just handed him treasure. The boy accepted the apple with both hands, eyes sparkling. His mother thanked Jae-woo, her voice full of warmth as Jae-woo spent his precious money for her son. Jae-woo shook his head, saying, "It's nothing," as he say that it's just a game money. The boy beamed happily, saying apple looks delicious, and thanked Jae-woo. Then he realized that 1 florin was enough for an entire day's meal. As they walked off, the mother bowed once more, thanking Jae-woo. The boy also called out, waving enthusiastically and thanking Jae-woo. He turned away slowly. "And tell the kid, listen to your mom." A soft, bittersweet smile tugged at his lips. This brings back memories. Back when he lived with his mother, he'd been just like that. Always begging for fried chicken, always needing more than she could give. And, somehow, she always managed to give it anyway. He feels that this game, it was unexpectedly charming. After that day, Jae-woo began logging into Guardian of Humanity every now and then. Whenever reality pressed down too hard, he slipped back into the game, just for a moment, just to breathe. It became his rhythm, logging more often. When he got too tired of the real world, he played. The game recharged him, he went back to living. But each time he returned, and each time he stayed a little longer. Eventually, 5 full years passed in game. One day, a voice called out to him. "You must be Han Jae-woo." He turned to see a woman clad in polished armor. Her posture was proud, her gaze direct. She introduced herself as Valpurgis, then remarked that she'd heard he had some skill. She asked if he was interested in hunting the rampaging boars out in Hovel Forest, her tone light. "Boars?" Jae-woo echoed. Valpurgis glanced his way. "What? Are you scared?" Jae-woo scoffed, shaking his head with a smirk. "Who's scared?" He shrugged off the challenge with a grin, saying it was perfect timing. He'd been planning to have boar meat for dinner anyway. Valpurgis grinned, as she remarked that if his skills ever caught up to his bravado. Moments later, a massive beast fell with a single clean strike. Valpurgis glanced over the fallen boar, eyes scanning the massive carcass before turning to him with a look of genuine surprise. He'd taken down the big one in a single blow. Jae-woo flicked his blade clean, his gaze sliding toward her with mild irritation. She hadn't lifted a finger the entire time. She only laughed, unbothered. He'd been so strong, she claimed, she couldn't find a single opening to jump in. Then, with a playful smirk, she made an offer. "What do you say? Want to form a party with me?" He hesitated. A notification appeared. "Paladin's sister Valpurgis has requested to join your party. Accept?" Yes/no. He eyed the offer with clear suspicion, brow twitching ever so slightly. It sounded a lot like another contract, where he'd be doing all the work, just like today. Valpurgis chuckled and asked, "Do you have trust issues or something?" Jae-woo hesitated, then gave a small shrug. "Well, kind of." She watched his reaction, clearly entertained. There was something about his mix of annoyance and stubbornness that she found genuinely fun. "All right then, I'll recommend you as a Knight of the Empire." Jae-woo paused and agrees. Crowds cheered his name. Sometime later, Jae-woo stood as a lector steel, no longer rising, but risen. The weight of his name carried presence now, earned and undeniable. Valpurgis stood beside him. As always, he impressed her. To think he'd come this far. She looked up at him and asked how he felt. Jae-woo says that this isn't his achievement alone, and remarked that, if she hadn't spoken to him that day, he never would have seen any of this. She raised a hand, gesturing out over the balcony. "These are the people you saved," she said, her voice steady. "And the peace you brought." Below, hundreds of citizens stood waiting. The square was alive with celebration. She told Jae-woo that these are his loyal citizens. Overhead, a white pigeon soared above the city hall. Scene shifts to the present. As they rode along a quiet path, Valpurgis glanced over at him. "Valor, you really are something. I haven't lived that long, but I've never met anyone with your level of dedication. Why do you keep pushing yourself like this?" He didn't answer right away, and we know why his face is all bruised. He is a pervert, but he says it's because he loved this world. She stared at him, a cute, curious look in her eyes. He exhaled slowly, gaze drifting upward, and says, "I first realized how beautiful the sky can be here. And, aside from the slight ache in my face, it's pretty nice." Her cheeks flushed as she muttered, "You shouldn't have taken my armor off." "It was unavoidable," he said, his voice low and strained, still bearing the weight of his injuries. She ignored him, pointing ahead. "Anyway, we'll be arriving at the Valpurga convent soon." Jae-woo stepped forward, urgency in his voice. "We need to let them know you're alive, quickly." Valpurgis gave a faint nod, her expression softening. "When I return, I'll make sure to repay your kindness. I owe you more than words can express." Jae-woo smirked. "I'll look forward to that. What should I ask for?" She narrowed her eyes. "You're being pervy again." As they rode up the hill, Valpurgis turned her head slightly. "While the reward might not come from me directly, the convent will make sure you're paid in full." Jae-woo glanced at her. "That's great, but what I really want is your." Her fist came up faster than he expected. "You want to get smacked again." The convent gates loomed ahead, but the atmosphere was tense. Valpurgis looked stunned as none. Angela rushed out to meet them, flustered. "What are you saying, Angela?" "Sir Valor is an honored guest of our convent. Angela lowered her voice and said, "It can't be helped. Our convent is under emergency lockdown. Therefore, Valor may not enter." The announcement left the atmosphere heavy with tension, even as Jae-woo found himself in a modest in near Reinfelden, muttering that things had turned into a mess. He had intended to demand the heart of the angel from the convent, a relic passed down for centuries within the Valpurga convent, an S-rank artifact carrying the blessing of a goddess. It was said to call back the user's soul, granting them another life. He admitted to himself it was a necessity, especially for the moment he feared might soon come. Valpurgis approached him quietly, apologizing for having to lodge him in such a shabby place despite their honored guest. When she asked what he was doing, he replied that he was thinking. Her voice dropped, warning that what she was about to share was serious and confidential. He assured her it would remain secret for life, and she trusted him enough to confess and says that the High Abbess had fallen to darkness. Jae-woo blinked in confusion, pointing out that he had just met Abbess Angela earlier. Valpurgis clarified that Angela was only the deputy abbess, and the true High Abbess was Lady Margarita. The revelation struck him like a blow. Valpurgis added that there might be a traitor within the convent, and must be the doing of the bastard Pesamut, while Jae-woo lost in thought that it's insane if she's still alive. He had thought that Margarita was long dead and had paid no attention since. Realization sank in. Margarita's reputation came rushing back to him. She was unmatched in martial prowess across the Empire's history, a woman who could subdue even lesser demon kings with ease. She had turned the Valpurga convent into a military power, and Jae-woo declared they had to save her. Valpurgis, startled by his sudden intensity, listened as he says that the High Abbess was struck by darkness, and he claimed that he knew darkness better than anyone. Then they head back to convent, and Valpurgis confronted Deputy Abbess Angela, and says that Jae-woo is a trustworthy man, and they should try to trust him once. Angela's eyes narrowed, remarking that Valpurgis seemed to have told him far more than she should have. The tension between them spiked, the air almost vibrating with the unspoken clash. She addressed Valpurgis directly, reminding her that, as she well knew, this entire incident had been the work of a traitor. And now, she asked, was Valpurgis truly suggesting they place their trust in an outsider? In her view, the man wasn't even worth listening to, and she ordered that Jae-woo be escorted out immediately. Valpurgis tried to protest, but the deputy abbess silenced her with a single, cold utterance of her name, as Jae-woo remarked that he had heard the High Abbess was in critical condition. Yet Angela insisted that such matters were of no concern to an outsider like him. Jae-woo urged her to at least hear him out, revealing that he had read the Seven Demons Gospel. That name made her eyes widen, and she demanded to know how he could possibly be aware of it. She reminded him that it was the very book penned by Saint Antonio himself. Jae-woo noted that she seemed to know it well, for it contained detailed records of the darkness, most notably a complete account of the 7 demon kings, beings erased from the world and sealed away, including thrashing death, one of the greatest forces of evil. Angela muttered in disbelief, then demanded to know how he had learned of such a thing. Jae-woo only said that the very act of speaking its name brought a curse, making it dangerous to discuss openly. His eyes lit up as he asked for her trust, claiming he knew in precise detail how to oppose the darkness. After a tense pause, she agreed, but on the condition that he carry the secret to his grave. She warned him in a tone like cold steel that if he spoke of it to anyone else, she would personally see him buried at the bottom of a river. And we can see the wood splintering beneath her grip. She had crushed a desk into pieces with nothing but her hands. The smell of sweat in the room was sharp and heavy. Jae-woo thought to himself that this convent was insane. He had never seen Margarita's face before, but he knew her reputation and thought that she could at least manage 2 tons on the big 3 lifts. That is squat, bench press, and deadlift. Valpurgis glanced at him, noticing he didn't look well, and asked if he was all right. He assured her he was fine, then asked if that kind of physique was her own goal. She admitted she would like it, but her uncle opposed the idea, so she had held back. He privately thought that was a relief. They soon reached their destination. Angela warned him that the demonic energy here was overwhelming and urged him not to lose his mind. He told her he understood and instructed the others to wait outside. They obeyed. Angela opened the way, feeling the oppressive force spill out. Valpurgis held firm under the goddess's blessing, and Jae-woo felt the strange protection of his own mind, shielding him from the corruption. Together, they beheld the High Abyss. Jae-woo recognized her instantly as the one who possessed the most overwhelming strength in the convent's history. The High Abbess of Valpurga, Margarita herself. He asked if she had been kidnapped, but was told that was not the case. When he muttered once more about her supposed feats of strength, Angela urged him to treat the matter with gravity, demanding to know why else they would seek help from a mercenary like him. They explained that every remedy they had attempted had failed, and that he was their final hope. Any price, they promised, would be as if he could save her. Their pleas were accompanied by desperate grips on his arms, holding so tightly that he was forced to gasp for breath and ask them to release him. Stepping closer, he finally saw the truth of her condition. She appeared gravely ill, far worse than he had imagined. As a priestess, the corruption was consuming her at twice the rate it would an ordinary person, and the black veins crawling up her neck were undeniable proof. Angela murmured that such a case was hopeless, but Jae-woo insisted there was still a way. Angela pressed him to reveal it without delay. He hesitated for a moment, before explaining that the solution was deceptively simple. They would have to use the convent's holy relic on the High Abyss. Angela glanced toward the High Abyss, her hand brushing the woman's cheek as she inquired if the treasure mentioned was the heart of the angel. She said she had a rough grasp of the situation. The curse of darkness clung to the High Abyss, and the plan was to transfer it into another host who would bear it in her stead. Yet, she remarked, divine power and curses were opposing forces. During such a transfer, the High Abyss's death would be unavoidable, hence the necessity of the heart of the angel. It was confirmed that the curse was fatal to all clerics, leaving no one in the convent capable of attempting the method. That was where Jae-woo came in, merely a mercenary, yet ironically the most qualified person to handle the transfer. Angela hesitated, apologizing to Sir Jae-woo, explaining that such a method was forbidden. She relayed the High Abbess Margarita's message. The darkness was her own, and no one else would be allowed to sacrifice themselves in her place. Should anyone try, she vowed to overturn the entire empire. The curse, Margarita had insisted, was of unknown origin, incomprehensible in both cause and effect. She questioned if Jae-woo truly believed he could survive such a burden. Valpurgis added her own plea, urging Jae-woo not to take the risk. Jae-woo assured them he would be fine, though he admitted privately to Angela that he might indeed be the best candidate. He knew the nature of darkness well, and unlike a cleric, he was immune to its wholly vulnerable effects. He reminded her that he was merely an outsider they had met that day and hinted that she was tempted by the possibility. Angela responded with a sigh, deciding to leave the matter in his hands. The heart of the angel, an artifact that could revive the user's soul once, should have been preserved for a dire moment. Yet Jae-woo thought this might be the perfect chance to gain Margarita's alliance. Valpurgis called out in alarm, still urging him to reconsider, but another voice dismissed her concern, saying that as a man, he should be left to act as he wished. Jae-woo declared himself ready, and the ritual began, mystic symbols blooming into the air. When the vision cleared, he found himself in a realm of pure black, unable to discern front from back. A voice announced itself as he who crouches in the grave and demanded to know who dared summon it. Jae-woo declared his name and ordered the curse on Margarita lifted and transferred to himself. The voice laughed, mocking his inability to perceive its form, and ordered him to leave. A divine chime announced that the player's soul was protected. Much to the entity's frustration, it could not extract him. Jae-woo shouted for it to obey, but the being threatened to claim the souls of everyone who had ever been near him unless he revealed himself. Cursing the tactic, Jae-woo responded in kind, boasting of having read the Seven Demons' Gospel. He then claimed to have traded his dog from thrashing death himself. The entity fumed at the mention of its peer, suspecting the fool was now selling it cheaply. Jae-woo threatened further, claiming he could even expose the color of its undergarments. Reluctantly, the being agreed to his demand, but imposed a condition, precisely what Jae-woo wanted. A quest appeared before him. He was tasked with killing all demon kings backed by thrashing death: Kuliak, demon king of nihility; Faza, demon king of darkness and sky; Herzamuk, demon king of gluttony and greed; and Amor, demon king of nightmares and illusion. Jae-woo silently celebrated, thinking the creature had taken the bait, and pretended the task was too much for him. The entity, insulted, decided to grant him the power of darkness. The surge nearly overwhelmed him, but it reminded him that nothing in the world came without cost, and he must endure. Jae-woo accepted, swearing to prove himself. The system declared that he had acquired the title Cold-Blooded One, along with massive stat increases, a new darkness stat, and the S-rank skill Undead Summon. Though the message claimed he had died, he awoke alive, laughing to himself that he now commanded liches, undead armies, and even death dragons, becoming the king of necromancy and the top-ranked player among 1 billion in Guardian of Humanity. He thought the world was finally recognizing him. Valpurgis's voice cut through his triumph, questioning if he had struck his head. She explained that he had lost consciousness after the ritual, prompting her to carry him to her quarters. She warned him never to attempt something so reckless again, her worry palpable. He apologized, promising not to repeat it. She made him affirm that promise once more. Outside, the ground bore signs of disturbance, and Jae-woo asked if a war had broken out or if Pezamut had passed by the chopped trees. The answer was neither. Margarita herself entered, stretching after a long period of rest. She greeted him warmly, thanking him and introducing herself as the High Abbess of the Valpurga Convent, inviting him to simply call her March. Scene shift, and we see a group walking down the stair, and Jae-woo think that, by now, Philip had likely made it out of the deep forest, and Jae-woo had finally ascended to the highest rank in the Necromancer system, the Cold-Blooded One. With such power in his grasp, he had considered quietly eliminating Philip. Yet, with the man being a guardian and without the heart of the angel in his possession, the chances of succeeding were slim. He reminded himself not to relax until the very end. While Margarita felt the surge of excitement and want some adventure, Margarita, however, was already causing a stir, prompting Angela to ask her to show some restraint. Margarita countered that such restraint was the true evil of noble society, accusing Angela of having grown into nothing more than a nag. Jae-woo, observing their exchange, asked Valpurgis if Margarita was always so over the top. Valpurgis admitted she had always been that way, explaining that the girl, despite her childish energy, was the youngest and strongest of the convent's military force. Margarita teased the two of them, suggesting they might be sneaking away together. Jae-woo wondered if they truly gave off that impression and laughed quietly to himself. They soon reached their destination, Valpurgis remarking that their conversation had made the journey pass without notice. Jae-woo recognized the place as Valpurga's underground storage. Margarita pointed out that it was filled with magical tools beyond the convent's imagining, declaring it perfect for someone cursed like Jae-woo. He thanked her for bringing him there, but she teased that if circumstances allowed, she would even go on a date with him, making him stumble over his words in embarrassment. Another nun scolded her by name, and Margarita laughed it off, promising not to act on such remarks since someone important might get upset. She urged them to hurry inside, clearly eager. Jae-woo thought everything felt chaotic, but the large doors opened slowly, revealing more promise. His thoughts turned toward the Philip Hunt. Now armed with new gear, he felt unstoppable. The equipment negated lesser curses, carried the skill Shadow Explosion, and included the A-rank magic dagger of Monster Karka, which boosted undead skills. After some time, Valpurgis noticed him slipping away and called out, asking if he will leave without saying anything, remarking that it hurt a little. She asked if they could take one last walk together, saying it felt as though they had known each other for a long time, even though they have only met recently. Jaewoo agrees, and she said that it must be because he had done so much for her, helped during the orc battle, and again in the final confrontation with Hexa. She told him that he had been amazing and reliable, and she thanked him for that. She then asked if he was curious about her face beneath the helmet. He admitted he had assumed there was a reason for it, and had never pressed the matter. She explained that beneath the steel lay a large scar, a mark of a curse whose nature was unknown, one her uncle had insisted must remain hidden. Because of it, others had cruelly nicknamed her the Ugly Knight. Valpurgis asked if he would look at her face, admitting she felt nervous but trusted that he would see her for who she was. When she removed her helmet and asked his opinion, Jaewoo stammered out that she was truly beautiful, relief washing over her. She then says that she wanted to give something to him and produced a treasure from the House of Baron, a keepsake passed down by her uncle, explaining it was a token to symbolize that she would always be with him. Jaewoo promised to treasure it. They parted in a comically stubborn exchange over who should enter first, until the system announced a hidden story, the bloodline of the Prince-Electors of Bayern. And Valpurgis' romance route had been unlocked. Jaewoo, privately amused, wondered aloud if this meant marriage at this rate. His mood shifted when he reached the battlefield. The ground bore the marks of a fierce fight between Philip and Pesamut, and neither seemed in condition to continue. He ordered a search, activating the magic dagger's new skill. Bloodbound followers rose at his command, summoned vampires sworn to hunt Philip. Others were ordered to collect scattered military uniforms, which Jaewoo thought might prove useful later. Elsewhere, Prince Philip, battered and furious, cursed Pesamut for leaving him in such a state. Soldier warned him that the situation was dire and demanded the return of ration. Prince Philip took, but he swallowed it in a single go. Meanwhile, Jaewoo called out to Prince Philip with familiarity, declaring he had come for him, introducing himself as the mercenary they had met earlier, Valorstead Valor. Recognizing the voice, the prince, recalling him without hesitation. A soldier, visibly nervous, urged the prince to stay back, insisting they first assess the danger. Another quickly supported the idea. Prince Philip's eyes hardened in anger, ignoring their warnings. He lunged forward and struck one of the soldiers. Philip says that while Jaewoo had fought his way to rescue him, these men had stood idle. They were nothing but pathetic worms, unworthy even to be crushed underfoot. Once this ordeal ended, he vowed they would be demoted to serve as subordinates under the mercenary they had failed to aid. He called out for Jaewoo, his voice carrying through the fray. The mercenary rushed to him, brimming with relief and exclaiming how much he had missed the prince. He spoke of fighting through the deep forest to reach him. The prince, offering his gratitude and praise for the reliable reinforcements, and says, was worthy of his trust, and he promised to ensure the royal received a reward for this loyalty. Jaewoo, however, waved off the notion of a reward with a tone that chilled the air. Such a gesture, he said, would be unnecessary, because he no longer needed the prince at all. Jaewoo, call forth his summons ready to attack Prince. Philip sneered an insult, calling him a mere pup too foolish to fear Tiger. In truth, he thought, he had only been raising a mongrel all along. Jaewoo agreed that he was a mutt, and perhaps he would just go and bite someone like the prince. The prince moved first, his stance flowing into the lunar shadow sword art, first form. Jaewoo observed that the grunts clearly couldn't handle this kind of fight. Continuing like this would only drain his mana. With a flick of his fingers, he ordered his followers to fall back. Philip laughed, taunting that watching one's minions die right in front of them must sting. Jaewoo countered that by saying, unlike a certain someone, His heart was vast as the endless plains. Then a fierce battle erupted, with Philip nearly overpowering Jaewu. Jaewu then remembered the power of Elector steel, facing his once own cherished sword style, a technique both elegant and deadly, but its reverse side holds a deadly counter waiting to be striked. It's called the Master of Counter, Elector steel. He asked if Jaewu truly thought he could turn his back and still live peacefully in Pulse. Jaewu responded that he had close ties with the convent's nuns, prompting Philip to scoff at the idea, declaring he had no fear of militant religious orders. Then came the Lunar Shadow Sword Art, second form, which Jaewu blocked with ease, and Philip realized he couldn't perform at his best due to the internal injuries he had sustained earlier. Jaewu announced that the melodrama ended there, and kicked Philip, sending him flying. Jaewu then reminded Philip that the ones he should fear weren't the nuns. It was him. Philip staggered, his body battered, muttering that if he were in better shape, things would be different. He demanded to know why Jaewu wanted him dead, claiming he had appreciated Jaewu's talent and blessed him accordingly, and that loyalty should have been his response. Jaewu replied that Philip truly didn't understand his crimes and explained him that, firstly, Philip disobeyed his orders and were betrayed, second, discarding Valpurgis without hesitation, and third, causing countless deaths because of him. And still, the man dared to call himself an elector. Philip argued that everything he did was for the people, and if he died, who would feed the citizens? His absence would only invite the other electors to descend upon Pulse. Jaewu admitted the point had merit and offered him a chance, a complete healing potion, in exchange for accepting his terms. Philip promised to give anything. Jaewu's demand was simple: kneel and beg Valpurgis for forgiveness. Philip was startled to hear she was alive, but agreed, adding that he would donate 10,000 florins to House Byron as a sign of good faith. Jaewu rewarded the spirit by giving him the entire potion. Philip thanked him and drank, only to hear it was laced with the venom of the venom dragon Ferguma, the kind of poison that could kill even demon kings. Before Philip could react further, another voice entered the fray: Piffenheim, who Philip thought had been killed by zombie dogs. Piffenheim revealed that he had indeed been torn apart that day, abandoned by Philip, but Lord Jaewu had granted him a second life. Now, he served Jaewu, and it was time for the prince to pay the price for his arrogance. A system warning appeared. Will you allow Piffenheim to kill the Guardian? Killing the Guardian may disrupt game progression. Jaewu decided the man wasn't worth keeping even as a prize. He gave the order to finish it. Philip fell, and the system registered an error: Guardian eliminated. A hidden scenario unlocked: kill the Guardian. The prompt declared that if all Guardians were killed, class transcendence would be obtained, and game difficulty immediately increased. Jaewu grinned at the challenge, amused that even the system probably hadn't anticipated this move. Somewhere beyond, a voice, half admiring, half mocking, remarked on the confidence blazing in his expression, urging him to keep rampaging, for this was only the beginning. The system notifications came in quick succession. He had acquired the skill Lunar Shadow Sword Art, S rank. Then Prinzessin Corral, AE rank. Empire Agitation, SS rank. Dignity of the Great Leader, SS rank. 5 new abilities in total, including 2 class-exclusive S-rank rewards from leveling up. It was, he thought with satisfaction, exactly the kind of haul expected from someone of elector status. And, on the surface, the only remaining drop seemed to be a nondescript magic zipper, though a barrier prevented immediate access. That would have to wait for Margarita's expertise. Another notification appeared. He had obtained the essence of the Guardians. Collecting 5 would allow ascension into a transcendent being, but at the cost of weakening the seal that kept darkness from consuming the world. The implications gave him pause. If he hunted these beings recklessly, the balance would tip toward ruin. Would his path lead to solitary transcendence, continued unity with the Guardians, or some unknown third way? Piffinheim approached, reporting that his search of Philip's men had uncovered exactly what the Lord had expected. The gleam of the prize left no doubt. This was the true reward of the quest. The subordinate also confirmed the success of a side task. They had disguised Philip's men perfectly as a demon, earning praise that all the disguises looked convincing. Somewhere nearby, a terrified voice begged for mercy, promising to do anything if spared. When asked who the cowering man was, it was explained that he was one of Philip's underlings who had been hiding. The question arose over what to do with him, but the man continued to plead for his life. Jaewoo's eyes lit up and addressed Pezamut warmly, hoping he would appreciate the gift prepared for him. Scene shift, and we see Lawrence, captain of the Royal Guard under Roland, commanded his units to halt. He remarked that there had clearly been a battle against Pezamut's forces, and when a survivor was discovered, he ordered the man handled with care for questioning. Upon learning that a certain item had been stolen, the survivor explained that after being surrounded by Pezamut's troops, his priority had been to save Prince Philip. Lawrence challenged him, asking if he had truly hidden while his comrades died. The man admitted it was so, claiming he might have made a difference had he moved faster. Lawrence twisted the account into a show of valor, declaring that the man had risked his life for his superior and was a model knight. He called on the troops to follow this example and search for Prince Philip throughout the night. Later, in Rose Lane at Rose Palace, Lawrence reported to his lord that they had pursued Pezamut's forces and found traces of Philip, but the prince had escaped and his whereabouts were unknown. When asked about the missing item, Lawrence admitted Pezamut had taken it. Roland muttered that the name was becoming tiresome, dismissing Lawrence's apology and focusing instead on the item, which he said was the only means of restoring Philip's status as elector. Lawrence protested, but Roland cut him off, saying the prince would not die so easily. He ordered Lawrence to deliver a message to Pezamut. The item was to be handed over, or the consequences would be unpleasant. Scene shift, in Pezamut's base, news arrived that a certain woman had been resurrected. The idea was dismissed as impossible, for the trap set for her had been perfect. She was still human, it was argued, but another reminded them of her history, how she had once stormed Alf's domain alone, slaughtered his subordinates, and taken his head, all because one of them had stepped on her snack. Since that day, the Demon Kings had referred to her as Margarita, the Storm and Annihilation. A message from the Demon King Roland soon followed, though its timing was met with irritation. Upon hearing the contents, Pezamut reacted with outrage. Roland accused him of holding the item, though they had never possessed it, having instead lost Hexac in the pursuit of Philip. The situation felt suspicious. Margarita's resurrection, the disappearance of the item, and an unclear chain of causes behind these events suggested the possibility of a hidden mastermind. Jaewoo sneezed, and when asked if he was sick, he brushed off concerns about illness and shifted focus to the matter of Philip's corpse. He planned to use it later as an undead servant, a fate his subordinate found fitting for an elector. Yet Jaewoo's true prize was something greater. The Golden Imperial Edict, sealed with the Empire's golden crest, proof of an elector's authority. Now holding both the edict and Philip's corpse, he proclaimed the world his, declaring long life to valor stead valor.